Hi, this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and today I'm going to be presenting a game, a legendary classic, between Paul Morphy and Count Isouard and the Duke of Brunswick, referred to as the Consultants, as black. And so it's a fantastic game because it really demonstrates how to crush your opponents in the opening. And, it follows the three principles perfectly as far as take control of the center. So you want to control the D5, E5, E4, and D4 squares. Develop your pieces rapidly and get your king safe. And so as you're doing that, you want to put as much pressure on your opponent and attack him as much as possible. And with every move, Morphy in this game literally introduces a new threat. So knight F3, putting a little pressure on the E5 pawn, and now D6, not a very aggressive response by the Consultants. So now D4, so Morphy again just threatening to take that pawn. And I think a better move maybe is knight d7 here, but the Consultants chose bishop g4, so they wanted to put a little pin here and defend like that. So now pawn takes, and now pawn takes. This would lead to a very bad position for black, essentially giving up a pawn for absolutely no compensation. So the Consultants continued with bishop takes, queen takes f3, and now d takes e5. So a little bit of trades, and now Morphy plays bishop c4. So introducing, the threats are already starting to pile up. So checkmate on move 6 is threatened. So now knight f6, a reasonable move to defend here, but probably not the best. I guess queen d7, in light of Morphy's response, would have been a more accurate move. So knight f6 makes sense, though. The Consultants want to defend and defend and develop a piece. So now queen b3, so a fantastic move by Morphy, just putting some pressure on b7 and f7. So this move wins a pawn, and so the Consultants defend with queen e7. Okay, queen e7, sure, that makes sense. The idea is to obviously defend against the pawn on f7, and if Morphy wanted to cash in, the Consultants could more or less buy their way out with queen b4 check. And so this would essentially, Morphy would win a pawn in this variation, but, just a pawn, nothing more. So something like this, and, obviously, okay, the pawn that white is won is good, but you see a good move, look for something better. So Morphy just continued development with knight c3, and now queen b4 just loses horribly to checkmate, whatever. So queen b4 no longer works. Knight c3 defends e4 and also develops a piece. So rapid mobilization, rapid development, coordinated into a cohesive strategy, a cohesive plan. So knight c3 is also going to be, with the addition of bishop g5 in the future, put a nice little pin. The knight is going to come to d5 and create even more threats. So now c6 by the Consultants, more like a pretty reasonable move. They want to defend the pawn on b7 and also prevent a future invasion on d5 by the knight. So bishop g5, and Morphy just keeps the pressure on. So bishop g5, introducing a nice little pin along this diagonal, and just developing another piece, clearing the back rank to the third principle. So white is taking control of the center with everything he's got going on. It's all coordinated, and he has completed development of his pieces while making as many threats as possible and putting as much pressure on his opponent. So what's the third principle? Well, he wants to get his king safe. So that's now with b5. So if you have an advantage, you are obliged to attack. And if you have an advantage and you're obliged to attack, if that involves sacrifices, then you can't be scared to make them. And Morphy here just knight takes b5. What's he going to do? I mean, bishop d3. Okay, now this b5 move's not so bad, and black is actually, he's not going to have the best position in the world, but he's really not doing too bad. Morphy just said, screw it, let's sack a piece. So knight takes b5, pawn takes, and now bishop takes b5. And now black is tied up. He is in knots here. These two bishops are excellently placed, and there's not a whole lot he can do about it. So now the attack just plays itself. Castles queenside, safeguards his king if it's necessary, and introduces, now he's got the rooks coming into the game. So an important point, castling kingside would be one tempo slower because then he would have to move the rook to the d file. And the same thing goes with moving the rook to d1 without castling, because now this rook, it's going to take another move to get linked up. So castles queenside, and so rook d8, essentially the only move. As far as, queen b4, black can try to trade out, but it's just not going to work because of the pin. So bishop takes f6 is going to easily win that knight on d7. So rook d8, and now rook takes d7. So exclam. So Morphy sacks in exchange now. He just sacked a piece. Now he sacks in exchange. So, a calmer move in this position, maybe rook d3, would still win. I believe queen e6 would be the try to trade and free up your pieces. And, okay, maybe queen e6. Obviously, this is going to fail miserably to essentially a similar idea, but it's one move slower. And white's going to recoup the material. He's got a winning advantage. He's got 2 pawns, but the fact that there's bishops of opposite colors will make this win a little bit trickier. And so, why play a good move? You can play something better. So after rook d8, now also if rook d3, maybe black can try to get out of it with h6, but I honestly the same thing is going to happen. Just pawn takes, and now white's going to win the piece. Everything is just flowing way too well. So anyways, I think it's already lost here. So after rook d8, rook takes d7, exclam, and rook takes pretty much the only move. Now rook d1. So white is down he's down a rook for 2 pawns, but black can't really move any of his pieces. And the fact that all of white's pieces are just too well coordinated and aiming directly at the black king, more than ample compensation. So what to do for black? Well, queen e6 seems to be the only try. He's trying to just get out of this, and if white takes, and okay, so this is going to be horribly lost for black, but maybe he can try somehow, some way, he can try to hold this position, just because of the fact that there's bishops of opposite colors will give him some dreams of drawing. And so Morphy here, bishop takes d7, and so knight takes d7, essentially the only move, and Morphy just uncorks a bomb on the consultants, the Duke. I'm sure he almost had a heart attack. Knight takes, and so queen b8 check. And just a nice tactical shot by Morphy. And so after knight takes b8, rook d8, checkmate, down a queen and a knight. So Morphy, he tried to take control of the center very actively. He rapidly mobilized and developed his pieces while creating as many threats as possible against his opponent. And he, obviously tucked his king away. And so a fantastic attacking game by Paul Morphy, an absolute classic, and definitely amply demonstrates the 3 important opening principles. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and thanks for listening.